Alright guys, what's going on? It's Phil here, and in today's video, we're going to be going over WrestleMania 41 Night 1 in a full show review. So let's get right down to it. WrestleMania 41 Night 1 is an interesting WrestleMania to say the very least. We got some great booking decisions in terms of the actual finishes of the match and who ultimately won in the end, but in terms of how we got there, some matches felt very rushed, and while we did get some high highs, we did get some low lows as well, and a main event that ultimately saved the night when it was all said and done. But we'll go over everything in detail. I'll tell you guys what I liked, what I did not like, and ultimately where I think WWE can go now moving forward now that WrestleMania is all said and done. So let's get down to it. Now, without further ado, if you guys would like to do so, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn on the bell for all notifications. That way you guys never miss another upload right here on the YouTube channel. We are on the road to 500 subscribers. I cannot wait to get there. You guys have absolutely been supporting the channel a ton as of late, so thank you guys for all the love and support. Stay tuned for my WrestleMania 41 Night 2 review on Thursday, but now let's get right in to WrestleMania 41 Night 1. Let's start off with the World Heavyweight Championship matchup as Gunther was defending that world title against Jey Uso. Now, in terms of the actual predictability of this match, Jey Uso had to win the World Heavyweight Championship. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm glad that WWE actually did that, because at the end of the day, if WWE were to just pull the rug from underneath Jey Uso once again in the fourth encounter that he has had against Gunther, man, fans would have just ate that match alive. And at the end of the day, they would just never treat Jey Uso as a legitimate and viable world championship type caliber contender ever again. So WWE made the right call by having Jey Uso win the World Heavyweight Championship in the end. In terms of the actual build of the match, it really only took Jimmy Uso to come into the fold like 3-4 weeks before WrestleMania to finally give some fans actually something to care about when it comes down to this feud. Because the 10 weeks of hell that Gunther was promising Jey Uso to go through really wasn't all that memorable until Jimmy Uso came into the fray. So thank God for Jimmy Uso's involvement in all of this, because at the end of the day, it finally gave some fans something to care about when it comes down to this feud. But in terms of the actual match itself, this match was easily the best match that WWE has given us when it comes down to the encounters of Jey Uso and Gunther. And it's not even close, because this is the fourth time we've ever seen these two go at it. And like I said, this is just the best match out of the four encounters that WWE has given us. And it's easily the best encounter because WWE finally made Jey Uso seem like a legitimate threat because of how confident Jey Uso was going into this match and how unconfident Gunther was heading into this match. WWE has done a very good job with having the opponents go in to their WrestleMania match against Gunther feeling all the confidence in the world, while Gunther is having a little bit of a lack of confidence heading into his match when it comes down to defending his championships. We have seen Sami Zayn go in there with all the confidence in the world, trying to win the Intercontinental Championship against Gunther last year at WrestleMania 40, and he ultimately did that. This year, for WrestleMania 41, we have Jey Uso go in to WrestleMania 41 with all the confidence in the world of finally gaining that confidence back, while Gunther was lacking confidence of trying to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. So this was very well done by WWE. Yeah, sure, the instant tap out was very odd, and that's what many people are very kind of divisive about when it comes down to the overall finish of this match. But when it comes down to four Uso splashes, a couple of spears, a couple of super kicks, and a sleeper, at the end of the day, WWE gave Jey Uso the World Heavyweight Championship. And now it's up to WWE to actually give Jey Uso a meaningful world title run. But if they don't, that's where fans are ultimately going to completely annihilate WWE in the end, because if you don't give Jey Uso a confident and viable world championship run after everything was all said and done of how this build came to be, it's going to be up to WWE to really kind of try to play damage control if that were to ever be the case. But WWE made the right call. Jey Uso is now our World Heavyweight Champion, and though I'm very much Looking forward to seeing what Jey Uso has in store for his world title run. If you were not a fan of this match, and especially the finish of this match, I don't blame you for a single second, because it's really all kind of just subjective and up to difference of opinions at the end of the day. But now that we have Jey Uso as a world champion, we'll see how things play out. And ultimately, it's just going to be very interesting to say, the very least, of how WWE positions Jey Uso as the world champion moving forward. Up next, let's talk about the World Tag Team Championship match, as the War Raiders were defending those tag team championships against the New Day. And let's just face it, we've all said this when the match was even made official. This was not a WrestleMania match. And trust me when I say, when it comes down to the actual WrestleMania match itself between the War Raiders and the New Day, this really wasn't anything all that special. The right outcome happened when it comes down to the New Day winning the World Tag Team Championships in the end. But at the end of the day, this match was just purely made for the sponsorship of Clash Royale. And that is just sad to me in terms of how everything kind of played out, okay? The match really wasn't anything all that special. They did absolutely everything that they could possibly do with the build that they had going into this WrestleMania match. And we all know that at the end of the day, WWE should have had the SmackDown Tag Team division on the grandest stage of them all instead of Monday Night Raws. So it's just very it's sad to say the very least of how WWE actually went about all of this. And yeah, sure, we got the New Day as our new World Tag Team Champions, and that's great, and how everything kind of played out. But WWE did a terrible job at making people really want to try to care about this match, because at the end of the day, nobody wanted to see this match whatsoever. People wanted to see the SmackDown Tag Team division on the grandest stage of them all. And since we didn't get that, we were just never going to be caring about this match whatsoever from the get go. And I'll just say this right here, right now. If WWE actually had this match on the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, nobody would have ever complained. Nobody would have ever complained whatsoever. But because this was on WrestleMania instead of the Raw after WrestleMania, it's just a match that we're just never going to be caring about. If you are going to be watching WrestleMania at all after this, and want to go back and just watch this again, just skip the match, because there's really wasn't anything all that special. But we do have the New Day as our new World Tag Team Champions, so there you go. Up next, let's talk about the matchup between Jade Cargill and Naomi. And the thing is, when it comes down to this match is very good to me. I ultimately liked what WWE did here. I honestly kind of would have liked to see Naomi pick up the win here over Jade Cargill, because I honestly thought you probably could have extended this a little bit further after WrestleMania was all said and done. But regardless, they had Jade Cargill win her first singles match at WrestleMania, and I understand why they did it. I mean, like I said, it's Jade's first match at WrestleMania in a solo capacity, so obviously WWE was not going to, just have Jade lose in her first singles match. But regardless of how WWE actually went about who won the match, I honestly thought the match was very, very well done in terms of the actual pacing and in terms of how WWE actually went about the production of this match. Naomi got a whole new presentation with new music and new graphics and new everything. And I absolutely love that for her, because her coming out to the glow theme and everything like that with her new heel gimmick was just not going to work out. So I'm glad that WWE actually debuted something new for her on the grandest stage, and it absolutely looked tremendous when it comes down to the presentation of Naomi. And in terms of what Jade Cargill looked like in terms of her presentation, she looks like an absolute megastar. We all know this. WWE absolutely has a machine behind Jade Cargill, and you can tell that from the very beginning of it all. But the actual match itself, yeah, sure, Naomi was probably, and she definitely was, the one to carry the match in the grand scheme of things. But Jade Cargill, I don't want to take anything away from her, because she actually did a very good job at, making the spots seem absolutely unreal within this match. And trust me, there were some unreal spots within this matchup here. So I absolutely loved what WWE did here with Jade Cargill and Naomi. Jade Cargill winning, You can say that it was the right call. You can say it wasn't the right call. Regardless of however you feel when it comes down to that, Jade Cargill won her first singles match at WrestleMania. And I'm glad that WWE, really kind of got behind this feud, because WWE really did a fantastic job at making both these ladies seem like legitimate threats against each other for the build of this entire feud. And I loved how WWE capped this off at WrestleMania. So I personally loved everything that they did here. And I want to see more of this continue. If WWE actually does want to continue more with Naomi and Jade Cargill, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But if WWE wants to see Jade Cargill move on to something else and have Naomi move on to something else as well, that's okay too. It's just a matter of opinion. But I ultimately love what WWE did here, and Jade Cargill winning was, honestly, I mean, you can say it's the correct decision based on how you felt about the match. So we'll see where things go. But overall, very good match for what they had, especially with the build going into this. So great job, WWE. Now let's talk about the United States Championship being on the line as the champion going in, LA Knight. Yeah, taking on the challenger in the Samoan Werewolf, Jacob Fatu. Now, when it comes down to the actual ending of this match, Jacob Fatu winning the United States Championship in the end was 100% the right call. I love that WWE actually gave the title to Jacob Fatu, because Jacob Fatu is absolutely 100% ready for this spot. Jacob Fatu has been ready for a singles championship in WWE, honestly, ever since he came in to WWE, and he hasn't been in WWE for that long. So great job for WWE actually pulling the trigger on Jacob Fatu winning the United States Championship. But in terms of what WWE did here in the story of this match, in terms of what we actually got for this match, this was easily my match of the night up until the main event, of course. But when it comes down to just the overall match itself, LA Knight and Jacob Fatu had incredible chemistry with each other. And you can see that they had incredible chemistry with each other when it came down to their biggest spot of their match, and probably one of the biggest spots of the entire night, when we saw a BFT just out of nowhere when Jacob Fatu was going for the Mighty Moonsault. And you only hit that kind of move when it comes down to just an opponent and another opponent actually having some great chemistry with each other. And you can tell that these two had amazing chemistry with each other right off the bat. A lot of people were very, critical of the fact that this could possibly be a squash match between LA and Jacob. And at the end of the day, you really can't say it really was a squash match, because they gave these guys 10, 11 minutes, and it made LA seem like a legitimate champion, while also made Jacob Fatu seemed like a legitimate challenger. And I mean, yeah, sure, Jacob Fatu is already legitimate enough as it is because he's Jacob Fatu, but at the end of the day, WWE did a phenomenal job at, telling a very cohesive story when it comes down to this matchup here. And Jacob Fatu winning the US title in the end was just the cherry on top of what was my favorite matchup of the night, like I said, until the main event of night one obviously came about. But very, very good matchup here, and I love what WWE did here for the United States Championship. Now let's talk about El Grande Americano taking on Rey Fenix. Now, for those of you guys who are actually watching the pre-show, WWE had Rey Mysterio go out there and basically announce that he was not going to be competing at WrestleMania, mainly because of the very potentially real injury that he sustained on Friday Night SmackDown the night before. And I just hope that Rey Mysterio does have a very speedy recovery in whatever type of injury it may be. But regardless, they had Rey Fenix fill in for Rey Mysterio. And though I do not agree with the finish of having El Grande Americano pick up the victory, I understand why WWE did this, because at the end of the day, now I feel like WWE is ultimately going to be extending this feud down the line when it comes down to Rey Mysterio and El Grande Americano. I feel like if Rey Mysterio was able to compete at WrestleMania, we would have seen the feud and the storyline end right then and there. El Grande would have been unmasked, probably would have been revealed to be Chad Gable, I'm sorry, guys. It is Chad Gable. I'm not trying to do this anymore. It probably would have been an unmasking of Chad Gable, and the story would have been done and over with right then and there. But because WWE had to, call an audible, have Rey Fenix fill in for Rey Mysterio, they're going to continue this story past WrestleMania. And I'm perfectly fine with that if we're just going to get the ultimate thing in the end by having El Grande get unmasked, have it be revealed as Chad Gable, and then we'll see what Chad Gable does after all that is said and done. But regardless, I thought what they did here when it comes down to Rey Fenix and freaking El Grande Americano. I'm so used to saying Chad Gable right now, but when it comes down to the actual match itself, I honestly thought it was very well done when it comes down to that, especially with how last minute it was. But I feel like it could have been a little bit more. And I understand, with how crazy the match was enough as it was, even though it was kind of short. I just feel like WWE could have possibly kicked it up a little bit more when it comes down to the match. And I'm not saying the match was bad by any means. I honestly thought this was pretty nutty in terms of an actual match quality, especially with how last minute the match was. But I think that with how Rey Fenix had to fill in for Rey Mysterio on such short notice is something that WWE is obviously caring enough to see Rey Fenix on the Grande Stage of the Mall so quickly, even if it was in a last minute resort. That to me speaks volumes of how WWE actually does position Rey Fenix moving forward. And yeah, sure, this might have been a little bit of an ad for what WWE did earlier on in the night, also during the pre show when WWE announced that they have acquired AAA, and WWE even had Vikingo in the front row, right behind the commentator's desk, and this was basically just an introduction to Vikingo and how WWE has acquired AAA, and now we're going to be seeing Worlds collide with WWE, NXT, and AAA all under one roof, and it's going to be absolutely insane to see. But El Grande Americano picked up the victory over Rey Fenix. Yeah, sure. I probably would have liked to see Rey Fenix win and just see the storyline of El Grande Americano just be done and over with. But the fact that WWE wants to continue this when Rey Mysterio is back, hopefully in quicker of a recovery time than what everybody's kind of hoping right now, I'll see where it goes, and I'll be fine if everything is all said and done. We get the unmasking, and we'll see how it all plays out. But regardless, I thought this match was very good for the time that it got, and ultimately, I'm very interested to see what WWE does with AAA now that they have acquired them. That's going to be very interesting, and maybe I can make a whole other different type of video on that itself. But regardless, this match was very good for the time that it got, and we'll see what the story of El Grande Americano brings for future references down the line. So it is what it is. El Grande Americano picked up the win at WrestleMania. Now let's talk about the WWE Women's Championship matchup as Tiffany Stratton was going in to defend that title against Charlotte Flair. And let's just say this right out the gate. She did it. She defeated Charlotte Flair on the grandest stage of them all. But was this match good? Absolutely not. This match was not good by any means. I'm in the camp of this match not being good whatsoever, and mainly because at the end of the day, these two had no chemistry with each other whatsoever. WWE did a terrible job at making Tiffany Stratton seem like a legitimate champion against a obviously legitimate challenger in Charlotte Flair. We all know who Charlotte Flair is. We all know it's normally death, taxes, and Charlotte Flair wins championships upon injury, or upon coming back from injury, rather. But that didn't happen this time around. Tiffany Stratton may have retained the women's championship, but at what cost? The personal rivalry really wasn't anything all that groundbreaking. The match really wasn't anything all that groundbreaking. It was boring. It was sloppy. It really didn't have anything left to be desired at the end of the day because this match was just not good. It was not good whatsoever. Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton just looked like they did not even want to work with each other. And that to me is very bad when it comes down to a women's championship match on a WrestleMania card. WWE did a terrible job with this feud, and it was right from the very beginning. WWE has a lot to be ashamed of themselves for when it comes down to all of this. And Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton actually have a lot to be ashamed of as well, mainly because of the fact that we know that both of these women, regardless of however you feel about Charlotte Flair, we all know that Charlotte Flair can do a hell of a lot better than what she did out there on WrestleMania Saturday, and we definitely know that Tiffany Stratton can do a hell of a lot better in terms of what she can do. So this match was just bad. It was just bad. And I hope that WWE does not go for this again, because in terms of the actual personal rivalry of it all, that to me right there was, a lot of people thought that that was the saving grace of this feud, right? Of how personal it got. But to me, it got personal at what cost? Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to the personal shots at each other, it made people really not like, it made people care about it because of how personal things got. But at the end of the day, you have these personal shots against each other, and people won't want to work with each other after all of that was said and done. So yeah, the match was not good, very sloppy, just bad. So hopefully WWE can salvage Tiffany Stratton's championship run moving forward, and we'll see where things go from there. Now let's talk about the main reason why you guys probably clicked on this video, and that was the triple threat match as the main event between Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. And trust me, when it comes down to the finish of this match, it was absolutely magnificent in every single way imaginable. I'm not going to be able to do this match justice, okay, when it comes down to the actual match itself. All I'm going to say is this. This was easily the best triple threat match that WWE has ever produced, bar none. I absolutely loved each and every single thing about this match. A lot of people really did want to see something on the line when it comes down to this match. A lot of people wanted to see a championship opportunity be on the line in this match. A lot of people wanted to see something more when it comes down to this triple threat match. But when it comes down to the favors that were ultimately going into this match, when it comes down to the overall hatred that CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins have for each other, and ultimately when it just comes down to just the history of these three men as a whole, that to me was enough to see this as a WrestleMania main event. And I'm glad that I ultimately went in with that type of mindset, because I just enjoyed this match at the end of the day. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk have impeccable chemistry with each other. And this, to me, was easily the best thing on the entire night, every single way imaginable, because of just how grandiose everything felt. The entrances felt big, the atmosphere felt big. WWE did a great job at making this feel like a true main event to WrestleMania, and that to me was easily one of the best things that WWE could ever do. When we saw the spot of seeing Seth Rollins try to get into the head of Roman Reigns to try to take out the cancer that is CM Punk, and Shield powerbomb him through the announce table, only to see Roman Reigns snap out of it, hit Seth Rollins instead, and not only put CM Punk through a commentary table, but also put Seth Rollins through a commentary table as well. It was just absolutely amazing to see, and just awesome how everybody in this match got involved, and how everybody was just able to get their stuff in and really look strong in this match as well. But when it comes down to the finish of this match, this match turned on its side, on its head in the last 5 minutes of this entire encounter, okay? Paul Heyman not only turning on his best friend in CM Punk, who he was in the corner of for this match, not only turning his back on his tribal chief in Roman Reigns, but ultimately siding with the Architect in the end. It's just beautifully well done, and I absolutely love each and every single thing about this, because Seth Rollins has needed, desperately needed a new type of change in character. And now that he is a Paul Heyman guy, this is absolutely something that I am so behind. And a lot of people were even just trying to take the narrative of having Seth Rollins be a Paul Heyman guy and run with it. But I'm so glad that WWE actually pulled the trigger on that type of narrative. And I'm so glad that WWE actually did that, because it's just so well done and it was so well needed for a character like Seth Rollins, that I am so happy that WWE actually pulled the trigger on this thing. Now, in terms of the actual future of this thing, this is on a Tuesday, so I can actually talk about what happened on the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. Now that we see what WWE is doing when it comes down to this whole entire situation of Seth Rollins being paired up with Paul Heyman, and we now have Braun Breaker being a part of this stable, this is going to be so good, and this is going to have such a pivotal moment to WWE and its future, heading into months and even a year down the line as we head even into WrestleMania 42. And I can say that mainly because of just Paul Heyman's involvement in all of this. When Paul Heyman is involved in a storyline, you know that that man is always thinking ahead, and that man always has a plan. He obviously books backwards when it comes down to the grand scheme of things. So I obviously can see a world where Paul Heyman already has the next at least 4 to 6 months already planned in his head of what WWE and what he wants to do with his partnership with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, and even possibly a third person down the line. This is going to be absolutely tremendous, and I cannot wait to see what WWE does with this moving forward. But the overall match and the overall grand scheme of things for this triple threat match at WrestleMania, like I said, I'm not going to be able to do it justice in terms of like what the moves were in this match. All you guys need to be aware of is that this was easily the best match of the entire night. This is the best triple threat that WWE has ever produced. And that finish may have left a lot of questions at the end of WrestleMania Night 1. But now that we saw what happened on the Raw after WrestleMania, things are coming together, and I cannot wait to see what WWE has in store for the future of the WWE, especially with that stable. So I loved each and every single thing about it. Now that's it for my WrestleMania 41 Night 1 review. Overall, the night was okay. We had some correct booking decisions in the end, but that main event truly did save the night, and that's really all that kind of mattered at the grand scheme of things, because that main event truly did have such a pivotal moment in WWE's history, and we're going to be seeing a lot more when it comes down to that partnership of Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman for months to come, and I certainly cannot wait for that. But WWE did a fine job for WrestleMania Night 1, but it definitely wasn't the best WrestleMania that we have ever seen. So guys, let me know what you guys thought about WrestleMania Night 1 down in the comment section below. I'll see you guys for the WrestleMania Night 2 review on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. But thank you guys so much for all the love and support, and I'll see you guys in that video. Love you guys. Stay safe. God bless. And peace.